All right. Well, welcome to Coffee with a Purpose, everyone, on this delightful Monday morning at the moment. I think the weather is supposed to be nice later today.
Yeah, and it looks like it's not quite as hazy.
Yeah, yeah, that smoke's finally clearing. But anyway, we're happy to have as our guest this morning Katie Cam, the new director at Bacon Free Library down in South Natick. I'm just amazed that we've got two thriving libraries here in town. And so we're super happy to have you with us, Katie, and tell us all about yourself and and the library. And we can take the discussion wherever you'd like. We usually start with just brief introductions so you have a sense of who folks are in town. And I think, more will gather as the time goes on. But let's start with Bill.
Hi, Katie. Welcome. I am a grandfather and took my 4-year-old granddaughter a dozen years ago to the library in South Natick, and we had several wonderful experiences there. A lot of programs for kids. So I don't know whether you're still doing that, but we haven't been there as often since. But wonderful resource. So thank you. I'm just active around town and interested in many things. So. Uh, Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Alan?
I'm Alan Cantor. I've been in Natick for just over a year, and I I love your little library, but I end up going to the other one because it's so close to where I live. So I should get down there more because I do appreciate the building and the atmosphere. So thanks.
Thanks, Alan. Cindy?
Oh, good morning. Cindy Bates. I'm a trail steward. I sing in sound and spirit, and I help keep Natick beautiful. I happen to live almost across the street from Morse, so I'm like Alan, where I don't quite get down to the library, except if there's a historical society thing happening. But thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks, Cindy. Tom?
Hi, I'm Tom Daly, a 35-year resident of Natick, and welcome.
Thanks, Tom. Janji?
Good morning, Jean Gimonar. I'm 25, 26-year resident of Natick, and I'm very curious to learn something about our second library. I'm a big fan of books and reading. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Janji. Brinley?
Good morning. I'm actually down there all the time. But I don't go in as much anymore as I used to. But I did used to take both of our boys there for events. Not as much as we did Morse, but definitely a lot because we like to hang out at the river. So it was the perfect place to do both things in the same trip. Have been enjoying watching the fence project. I'm so grateful for that. It looks fantastic, and um, I've been here, I guess, 26-ish years. I'm a town meeting member and just stuff like that around town. Glad you're here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Brinley. Sarah?
Like several people have said on this call, sort of active around town. We also live closer to the downtown than South Natick, but I am down there relatively frequently. I do volunteering at the Historical Society, and sometimes we'll then come up and hang out in the library. It's a very cozy, wonderful, welcoming space. So thank you for being here.
Great. And I'm Doug. I convene this group every Monday, and again, active around town. Unfortunately, more a patron of Morse. So, but I don't know. I mean, I guess that certainly puts the question on the table. Is it just they're in two geographic places? I know that there's a lot more that's different about the two, and you go to different ones for different things. So, but so again, happy to have you with us, Katie. I don't know whether you have things to share with the screen but we'll use the raise hands function, and you can take questions during, after, however you would like to have it.
I do have stuff to share with you guys. We'll see if I can remember how to use Zoom.
You should have the ability to
There we
share
go.
the screen.
Yep. Okay, cool. Let's see if I can make Canva do what I want it to do today. It's one of those. I do apologize if there is any background noise today. We've become a bit of a construction zone between the dam project outside. They're now also taking out my sidewalk out front to put in a crosswalk. And then we also have some guys fixing our emergency lights.
Wow.
Bit
It's
of a
very
crazy
quiet at the
morning.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah,
Zoom's usually pretty good about screening out background noise, but
yeah, I
there is a
can't hear
lot
too
going on.
much. Yeah. Well, thank you all for having me. As Doug said, I'm the new director down at the Bacon Free Library. I started back in April, so I've been here just kind of 3-ish months. And it's been a busy 3 months, but I love it. So a little bit about me. I graduated from NYU in 2019 with a global liberal studies major, which I always describes as like an arts and humanities major with a concentration in arts and literature. And so we had to write a thesis. I studied abroad for 2 years, a year in London and a year in Paris.
Hmm.
And throughout all of that, I was also able to complete minors in English literature and creative writing. I graduated from the Syracuse's online program in 2021 for my master's in library science. Um, got very lucky that I started in January of 2020 and was already online when the shutdown happened in March, made things much easier for me. And then after all of that, I was a kindergarten teacher for about 8 months in Newark, New Jersey, courtesy of one of the moms that I babysat for, got me in there, which then led to my starting as a children's librarian in Brooklyn Public Library in 2022. And I was promoted to assistant branch manager within a year of being there, mostly because I had taken on the role because we did not have one, a little bit because I was just always aware of what was going on. And so I was there for almost 4.5 years before I went out on maternity leave and then decided to make a change and leave New York City for the better. And the Bacon is kind of the epitome of what I love about libraries. I love working with kids and families, and I get to be surrounded by books all day in a gorgeous building, which pretty fantastic for doing something you love all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a little bit about the Bacon. There's a lot on the screen. I just pulled from our website a little bit of the history. So we originally started in the parlor of Oliver Bacon's home for his wife as the Ladies Social Circle Library. And recently we actually found on top of the shelves a huge cataloging book that catalogs back to 1880 and has some of the first books purchased for the social library, which is really cool. And after she passed away, Oliver Bacon obtained the land where we are today. And in his will, he established a trust to build a library. So his will basically states that on this land, there must be a building that houses a library and a historical society. So his will
Oh,
bequeathed both. But we are two separate entities in the building. And so in 1908, we mass passed a statute forming the library as a charitable corporation, and we've operated for over 100 years as a library, or well, as a charitable corporation. And so the way that we're structured has changed a lot throughout our history. So when the library was first created and all of that, we had the trustees who were largely responsible for the funding and operation of the library. And then slowly throughout time, the town of Natick started to provide money for larger capital projects, a lot of building maintenance, and all of that. And then by 1951, or early, actually, that started in 1951. In early 2000s, the town started paying for staff, materials, operations, and all of that. And so now, today, as we operate, we are fully a town department. And all of the staff members of the Bacon are town employees. I report to the town administrator, and so most of our funding comes from the town. You'll see us on the town budget. We come to town meetings, and so we that's where the majority of our funding comes from. And then we do still receive some funding from our trustees. However, they are now responsible for largely just the building and the grounds, like the maintenance of the building, any big projects, the grounds upkeep, all those. Natick, the town of Natick does do some lawn care and things as well. That's kind of how we operate in the grand scheme of things today.
Hmm. So I'm sorry, did you say
Yeah,
that the trustees are responsible for the upkeep of the building, not the
yeah,
town? So the
yep.
town is more the operations
Yeah,
for
so
the,
the town oversees essentially the staff and the operations of the library. So
okay.
they, and there's still a little fluidity with all of that where things are still being finalized just because nothing was ever solidified when the town took over. And so we're still working through all of that even today.
Hmm.
But essentially, the town is responsible for like policies, hours, the collection. They provide the largest budget for the collection, and all of that, where the trustees are the ones who are doing like the fence project. They are the ones who, if something breaks inside, like our emergency lights, they're in here today to oversee that. And so they're a little bit more just the encasement of the library.
Yeah. Cindy, I see you've got your hand up.
Sort of on a similar line.
Mhm.
So are the trustees of the library or trustees of the parcel of land that has the library building and with the two entities inside it?
So they are the trustees of the Bacon Free Library, and this is where
Okay.
it gets a little bit more confusing because
Yeah.
the Historical Society also has trustees.
Okay.
And so there are two trustee groups.
Mhm.
Although I believe the trustees of the Historical Society don't oversee the building as much, they probably oversee more of the maintenance of downstairs, and then my trustees oversee anything else.
And then who owns the parcel of land that this building sits on?
I believe the trustees.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So there is that's part of a lot of the conversations that my
Yes.
trustees in the town have been having.
Yes.
And so that's I'm learning a lot about that right now.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
That's very helpful.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about how we're organized. And then things that we offer. So, we're a classic library. We have lending materials, a lot of books. I do believe some directors past have also created a small collection of the library of things. So, tucked away in a corner, I know we have knitting needles, we have hotspots, we have iPads. And so we have lots of little things, and I'm trying to kind of grow that collection a little bit more. But the number one thing is our books, one of the most popular things. And a lot of that is changing every day as well. And then programming, our number one audience is children's. We still put on a great roster of children's programming. We have three story times a week. Are super popular. We have Jammin' with You every other Friday. We recently had over 70 attendees at that last Friday. The weather was gorgeous. We also offer 6 book clubs for adults. I'm debuting one tomorrow if anyone's interested in a romance book club. Um, we also have other special programs throughout the year, like we should be having at the end of August a floral arranging workshop with the organic farm. Um, watch the website for more information on that. And then another hot commodity is our museum passes, which you can also get through the Morse. So we currently offer 7, but I don't know the exact number between the two libraries, but some of them overlap. And our most popular ones currently at the Bacon are the Gardens at Elm Bank, and the Museum of Fine Art. We have almost 100 patrons using those every year. And now I'll go over some of our fun challenges and changes going on at the Bacon. So, something about our building that you may know is we are historical. We are a historical landmark, which means things can be quite challenging when it comes to changing things about the building. And so our number one issue that we have, or challenge that we have, especially for programming, is our accessibility. So as you can see from the pictures, we have stairs leading into our front door. And then once you're in our front door, we also have stairs leading up into the library. And then we also have stairs going down into the lower level to access the bathrooms. And technically, the Historical Society has wheelchair access, but because they're open such limited hours, that does not count. And plus, you can't get upstairs from down there anyways if you were to come in a wheelchair. And so that it's very limited. We have a lot of accessibility challenges, and so because of that, the way that we do programs has to be very specific. And so the way that it was explained to me when I started and what I'm kind of learning is that if we offer a program inside of our building, it also has to be offered in an equal and accessible location. And so the Morse would be an example if, like, our story times, for example, we're allowed to do those inside because the Morse also offers story times throughout the week. Um, if Wellesley or another library nearby was offering a program, we would be allowed to offer an equivalent here because patrons would then have the opportunity, if they couldn't make it inside here, to go somewhere else. A lot of our book clubs are virtual because of this, and so we make sure that people can attend them. In the summer, when the weather's nice, we do as much as we can outside. So my book club tomorrow will be out in Shaw Park. We do our story times outside in the mornings. And so we're working around some of those challenges. And a lot of my plans for this year are to see how we can expand and still say accessible to everyone.
Brittany, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I just was curious if
Mhm.
hybrid counts instead of having to be all virtual. Can things be
Yeah.
hybrid and not count?
So this is what I am working on because I would love to do hybrid programming. I was told in previous conversations with the director who was here before me that they would still have to be offered in an accessible location. However, I spoke with the ADA coordinator from the town and she said that hybrid was okay. So I am working on that because it would make things a lot more flexible for us. If we could just have something going on in the library and then still present a virtual attendance option. Like I've purchased recently, like microphones that we can attach to that we can plug into the computers that would hopefully help with some of the audio issues. And then it's just figuring out some of the visual stuff to make sure that attendees online would be able to participate in the same way.
Mhm. Cindy?
Are you also considering architectural changes so that the building could be physically accessible?
That is something I am not aware of right now. The trustees, I believe, have approached the idea and have had individuals come in to do quotes and things.
Yeah.
Um, I believe it's quite an undertaking.
Yeah.
And I think our number one issue is that our bathroom would never be accessible because it's so tiny. If you've ever been in the
Yeah, I
library,
used it. Once I
we are,
found
yeah, for
it.
those that haven't been downstairs to the bathroom, it's literally in a closet under the stairs.
With a tiny sink that's
It's
the size of
teeny
your face.
tiny. It's not
Super tiny.
accessible in any way. I feel so bad for the parents. I'm like, I could never change my child down there because he rolls around too much. Applaud those who can. So
Okay.
I think they've approached it, and I think I'm not quite sure of all of the details around that, but it
So
would be
that's
great.
definitely a trustee issue, isn't it, there?
Yeah, because it's the building and
Yeah.
they would be the ones responsible for doing a lot of it. I'm sure at that point the town would probably work with them to come up with something. But there would just have to be steps. Plus, we are a historical building, so we're limited in what we can actually do architecturally.
Yeah. Thank you.
But yeah,
Yeah.
would that historical designation, not only does it limit you, but does it exempt you in any way too?
I
Or
believe kind of.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I think we're allowed to operate the way we do because we're historical.
Mhm.
Um, but it definitely puts limitations on certain things. But the staff here has been amazing, like doing book drop off down on the curb. Like if anyone calls and needs anything, we're happy to run it outside. A lot of our art programs are take and make, and so we quite frequently take materials down to more that I've seen, mothers sitting in cars with children who don't want to try to bring everyone inside.
Yeah, that idea that if you're offering if there's a program that's functionally equivalent, even if it's
Mhm.
not actually being offered by Bacon, you mentioned even if it's in the neighboring town of Wilson,
Yeah.
that seems like a really helpful. Um, I'm struggling for the word, but yeah, everybody knows what I mean.
Alternative. Yeah, it's a very helpful
Alternative,
like
yeah.
alternative.
Hmm.
And I think that's how a lot of the programming has been done in the past. I know a lot of it has been virtual, um, in which you have your audience for, but I would love to get things a little bit more in person, like that mix, to get people actually in the library would be fantastic. So I'm
Hmm.
exploring all my options.
Hmm.
All right. Oh, Pat, you had a question.
Yes, I'm sorry, I might have missed this. The reason I was curious, the CPA funds couldn't be used to support, like a stairmaster thing or something that in your building or that kind of. Is it
I
just
believe.
too expensive?
So again, I wasn't like around yet when they were having the conversations with the trustees. Um, I found bits and pieces of paper, and the trustees have told me too that they've had people come in and quote. I just don't know that any moves have been made essentially. So I don't know to the full extent what would be possible. I'm sure there's funding buckets that could definitely, like CPA funding, stuff like that, that could definitely be used to assist with that. But that would be a long-term trustee project. And I
I see.
think some of it too is trying to limit how much we're closed, just so that way we're still open
Right.
to the public
Sure.
and
Bill,
doing
I
what
know
we
you
can.
can speak to
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just
CPA.
wanted to speak to the CPA piece. Sarah and I serve on that board. There was a proposal to do some work at the library, and it just the town folks that were involved just raised so many issues and so many questions. The historic nature of the building. If you try to build something outside, you create an accessible, but you violate a building, historic building piece.
Yeah.
So it just was withdrawn. I don't know where that is, whether they're still thinking about it, but CPA funds, as presented, just didn't pass muster with the town,
Hmm.
just with
So
all
yeah.
the ADA issues and the historic issues.
Yeah, I know like there's a lot of just if there's work done, we have to meet certain ADA requirements. And so it's
Right.
like if you meet a certain threshold, if you're not fully accessible, then it's an issue. If you do
Hmm.
too much, you're then violating historical. It's we're a
Yeah.
complicated building.
Right.
Sarah, did you want to
Yeah,
add to that?
just in terms of the CPA issue. So Morse Library also put in a request to do some work last year through the CPA, and initially they came in. And Bill would know more about this because he attended more of the meetings on this particular one than I did. But that originally they kind of came in asking for just we want to do all this renovation, and the CPA's or CP Community Preservation Committee's response was it would make more sense to do this in phases. So they kind of revised their request to have the first piece of it be a more comprehensive assessment of what was needed and sort of figuring it out, and then you could make a better evaluation of the kinds of work that were needed. And it wasn't so much an accessibility issue for them. It was just they also have an old historic building and needed some long-term work. And so the idea of let's look at it more carefully, figure out more specifically what we need to do, what could CPA funds be used for, and then theoretically, once that assessment is done, then they may come back again and say, okay, now we know we need to do these three things that are eligible for CPA. Can you fund us that way? So that was a long-winded way of saying it, but maybe in the future, if they were to approach us again with a different formulation, obviously I can't speak to a proposal that hasn't been made, but it's a possibility.
Yeah. Pat and then Bill.
Yeah, I don't mean to hold you up on this. Just curious, there must be other communities who have beautiful historical buildings that, libraries or whatever they have in them, town halls, and it seems like there ought to be some kind of funding mechanism to make them accessible. And I was just curious, has that been
Yeah.
explored?
Not
This
sure.
certainly goes beyond Katie's realm of input here, but yeah, I mean that would make sense. Bill, do you want to
Yeah, it
speak to
kind
that?
of kind of ties into what I was going to say. What Sarah was referring to is the CPC kind of encouraged the library to step back, the Morse Library to step back and do an analysis of what was needed, and that was the project that we did in fact fund. So if the library, and I'm not suggesting this would be approved, but if the library were to come forward with a request for an analysis, a study, a professional study of what could be done, we'd probably pay for it. Now, it might result in you can't do anything,
Hmm.
but at least you could hire professionals that understand both the historic and the ADA pieces and get some support from the CPA to fund that. So, professional study of what actually could be done and what would be required would be something that's the scope could qualify for CPA or CPC funds or
Cool. Thanks for
CPA
that
funds.
tidbit.
So
Yeah,
yeah, you
that's
might want
useful.
to go back to circle back to the trustees on that issue.
Yeah.
Hmm. Right. Yeah, and kind of to Pat's point, I mean, a lot of historic buildings or just older buildings have the same challenges. We face it at the Congregational Church as well. It's like it can be difficult to work with buildings that were built and designed before elevators existed. But yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I should let you get back to your the core.
Yeah. So I also wanted to touch on our collection. So this is probably the biggest project that I'm tackling right now. Um, I come from a system that was quite large, and we were able to keep our collection quite narrow. Um, and so I'm learning a lot about how our books are used, which is fascinating to see. Like high circulation rates in New York City would be in the hundreds. Here, maybe 15 would be high, depending on the book. So one of the things I'm working on right now is just going through one big project that we did that the Morse came in and helped me with is we actually took our mystery section. If you've ever been in, our mystery was um, separated out in the front. And so we actually moved it in and filed it with all of our fiction books, just because there were authors who had books in mystery, but books in fiction. And then depending on how you look at it, sometimes the delineation between thriller and mystery is quite um, subjective. And so we wanted to clear some of that up, and so we moved our mystery in with our fiction. And they will soon have stickers. They're actually sitting on my desk. They arrived this morning. So we will get most of our genres labeled. The usual ones are like romance, sci-fi, fantasy, mystery. I believe I got classic stickers because we also moved those in as well. And so with some of that, we're also trying to make our collection a little bit more browsable. Our shelves were packed very tight when I came in. And that can actually cause a little bit of like choice paralysis. You see so many options, you don't know what to do. And so we always said in Brooklyn that a shelf should be 75% full. And so I'm going through our collection. Things that haven't circulated in 2 to 4 years are coming off the shelves. We don't want things just sitting here collecting dust. It makes room for new books. Um, and then I'm also trying to limit our author collections. The big authors like James Patterson, Stuart Woods, De Silva. I'm trying to make sure we have books available for patrons, but also with the understanding that we are part of Minutemen. If you don't see it on our shelves, you can order it. We'll happily get it for you. But just making sure we have some available, but not too many. So that way we have room for other authors and can highlight a lot of that. Um, Brinley, I can answer your question before I move on.
Well, it was just about that. You said the books come off the shelves. I'm always curious what smaller libraries do with their books that come off the shelves. You know, like I'm familiar with Morse, but how does Bacon handle it?
Yeah, so we unfortunately don't have a friends group. If we had a friends group, they could do a book sale and help us get some fundraising done. Right now, what we do is we donate them to a group called More Than Words. They work with at-risk teens to give them job opportunities, and I believe they do book sales on their own. But so we just do a big donation to them. They'll come and pick it up and then do with the books what they may. Some of what we give to them is quite damaged, so they might be used for like arts and crafts. Some of them are still in good condition, so they might be resold. I'm still learning a little bit more about that organization, but they've been, I think they take from the Morse as well occasionally. And so we're happy to keep sending them what we can while we while we work on this project.
That's great to hear that they don't just get tossed.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can say I've worked with More Than Words a lot
Mhm.
when we used to run the Clean Your Attic Day. They would always come every time, and they are an incredible organization for what they do and the jobs that they provide.
Mhm.
It's they're I'm very happy to hear that they're an incredible organization.
Yeah.
Katie,
We
uh,
yep.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
You mentioned that you're part of the Minuteman Library Network, and I
Mhm.
know whenever I'm looking for a book, I'm always looking for it online, and then
Mhm.
just having it delivered to the Morris because that one's closer to me. But maybe you could talk to us for a minute about how that works. Like, is it completely immaterial? Would that just be a geographic decision that essentially the same universe of books is available and could get delivered to either library or
Yeah, so Minutemen is basically a network where we do a lot of collection sharing and like other resource sharing. So I I compare it a lot to the system that I was in New York City. So in New York City, we had three public library systems, but they were so large that books were shared across the branches. So like in Brooklyn, we had 60 branches, and books would get people would request them online, and if your branch had it, you would send it out to that location for pickup. That's essentially what Minuteman is. Minuteman is a huge collection, and there's also quite a few. There's the Old Colony Network, Clams, CW Mars. There's a lot of different networks in Massachusetts. Um, that if you're in the network, you share your collection with the other libraries in the network. So, say the Morse has a book, like I'm going to use my Norwood book club as an example. Um, I'm reading How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying. We don't have it here at the Bacon, but the Morse has it. And so theoretically, I could put it on hold. And the way that we run right now, it would get picked up by our delivery driver on a Monday or Thursday, would make its way to wherever it gets sorted, and then eventually make its way to us. So if it's not on the shelf at the Morse or the Bacon, it's going to be pulled from one of we have what we call a paging list, and the books will that people have requested will appear on the paging list, and whichever library pulls it off their shelf first will send it out to fulfill that hold.
do you, I know Cindy's got her hand up, but just to
Mhm.
follow up a little bit more on this.
Yeah.
So do you have statistics or kind of in terms of how many people physically come into your library just
Mhm.
looking for a book or come in there and request a book that they then have to wait to have delivered, or
Mhm.
do my approach of just go online and make the request there and have it have it delivered. I'm just kind of wondering what are the demographics of how people use the library to request and get the book that they want to read.
Yeah, so we keep statistics for patrons coming into the library. So anyone who walks through our doors, we check off and we count. Um, I believe Minutemen, so I'm in the middle of state reporting time right now. And so Mickey over at the Morse is helping me because it's my first year and it's quite a beast. I believe Minutemen tracks some of those other like online requests. If you have your home library set as the Bacon or the Morse, we'll get those statistics. We'll also get statistics for how many books we sent out, how many books were checked out at our physical location. And so there are those statistics that exist. They're just in an Excel spreadsheet somewhere.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Cindy?
Yeah.
So one quick question that goes back a little
Mhm.
bit. It's just curious how often the trustees meet and how often do you meet with the trustees? Is that a regular thing that's part of your job? That's my quick
Yeah.
question.
Yep. So I meet with them. We sit down formally once a month at the beginning of the month. But I see my trustee chair. He's in quite frequently. He helps with a lot of the building stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and then I'll see others throughout the month for
Okay.
various things.
So my question that's relevant to this slide is
hmm
about the nonfiction. Um, how um, are there some classic nonfiction books that you just keep because they're classic nonfiction? I'm just curious, and what like where do you draw the line between like is nonfiction a very bright line?
Nonfiction, and I think, did I touch on it? I do. So we make sure it's up to date with
Yes.
for nonfiction. So classic books, it really depends on the book.
Yeah.
Um, but like using parenting stuff for an example, like we don't have anything by Spock on our shelves anymore because most people would consider that very outdated. Even though some
He's a
parents
Vulcan.
do. He is a Vulcan. He should go in our sci-fi. Um, but so we try to keep it as up to date as possible. My hard line is 5 years, especially for
Okay.
scientific books.
Okay.
Um, Cookbooks and such that don't expire in the same way, if they're being circulated, if they're being checked out, then they're more likely to live on our shelves a little longer.
Okay.
Um, Same for like self-help books and things like that. But things that are based in research and all of that are going to live on the shelves a little bit less, like not as long, just
Mhm.
because the data is constantly being changed and updated and there's new theories and all of that. So it's going to circulate, it's going to move in and out a little faster.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of like Rachel Carson came to mind. And she didn't write fiction, but she wrote Silent Spring. So I was just thinking of books like that. Um, and like they don't have to be at the Bacon Library, but I was just curious, like, is there a realm of books where because it's a classic nonfiction, you keep it?
It's going to depend on the library.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so it's very much at the library's discretion. If it's still, I will say the number one thing we look at is circulation.
Yes.
So if it's still being checked out, it will probably still be on somebody's shelves until it falls apart, and then it's up to them to decide if they're going to reorder it or not.
Okay.
If it's not being checked out, it's more likely to get taken off the shelves.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yep.
Okay. Back to Pat.
Yeah, I didn't slow down your presentation, but I was hoping, I was just trying to figure out how you're governed and the Morse. I think you both have different or separate boards or
Mhm.
trustee boards and stuff. And the way that you coordinate is interesting to me, but I don't understand it.
So, yeah, so we are two separate libraries. In the eyes of the town and our trustees, we are two separate libraries.
Oh, okay.
And so Mickey and I are responsible for our respective libraries. We are both town employees, so we both report to town admin.
Mhm.
Um, but then her trustees operate a little bit different than my trustees
Okay.
and all of that. However, in the eyes of the state, and in the eyes of the Minuteman Network, the Bacon is technically a branch, which is
Right.
beneficial for us because we don't have to pay such large fees. And for
Right.
state reporting stuff, we can also count circulation and hours open and all of that to make sure we're hitting state requirements.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
so in the eye, we are our own little operation down here.
Well, what I was also curious about, because one of my most dedicated volunteers was Kathleen Donovan, and I'm just wondering how the Natick Library system sort of coordinates itself, and
Yeah,
everything from the parking issues to the I mean, there's so many things that you have to consider, I suppose.
Yeah, Mickey and I are trying to work a lot more closely. She's been a fantastic mentor for me starting out. And so her and I are coordinating on a lot of stuff. We're trying to get the overarching Natick Libraries theme going, just so that way people are aware there are two of us. We offer different things, but a lot of the same things. And so we're working very closely. One of them speaking, Doug, kind of on the how books get places. They used to do a pickup between the Morse and the Bacon, so that way books were getting to patrons faster.
Yeah.
That stopped for a while. Eventually, Mickey and I would love to bring that back. It's kind of been on the bottom of our plate lately. We have so many other things going on. But that's kind of, we do work very closely in collaboration. They've helped me a lot with my summer reading stuff this year, just because I was so new and kind of missed the library deadline for getting our summer reading stuff going.
Would the bookmobile, for example, be on your weekly pathway, or is that
that's
just
something
special
that's something
request?
we've talked about, potentially having them come do special event, like the bookmobile
I
doing
see.
special events for like story time, but essentially the outreach team that does the bookmobile but would be the ones helping with the delivery. So that's a lot of what we have to sit down and discuss and figure out.
Okay.
Great
Thank
to hear you're not cutthroat competitors, but
No,
more
no. Very much collaborators.
That's good. Brinley? Oh, yes.
Yeah, sorry. I'm curious to backtrack for one quick second about the 5 year hard line rule, because I feel like science isn't. I mean, there's stuff that we scienced 20 years ago that is still really, really relevant. So this isn't a challenge of that. This is a curiosity of what you mean by 5 year hardline rule.
So for the for the 5 year rule, it's just kind of making sure that books are up to date. I'll use our children's as an example because that's something a huge project I've been working on. We still had books on our shelves that said Pluto was a planet, um, which hasn't been the case in a very long time. Some of our children's nonfiction is probably from 2003, 2004. Adult nonfiction, it depends on the book, depends on the topic. If there's something that that has outlasted time, that is still very true, we're not gonna, if it's still circulating, we're not gonna take it off our shelves. But if it's something that has been challenged in the last 5 years, that there's new research on, um, then we'll kind of look at it and take it off. Um, the biggest thing, even for nonfiction, very much like fiction, is circulation. It's always going to be what's circulating, what's being looked at. We don't want things that are outdated and incorrect. And so, again, with some of the children's, there's nutrition books. The way that the food pyramid is no longer a thing, it's now a plate that's separated. So anything with the food pyramid, I'm trying to move away from. I think children's is probably the biggest one where like, oh my gosh, this has changed so much. Like it's so old. We need to get rid of it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I would guess that, as you were saying earlier, because you have so little space that this notion of having to circulate older stuff is perhaps more acute at a small facility than it would be at a larger. But Rick? Got to come off mute, Rick. Rick, you got to come off mute. Rick, there you go.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I was just curious, Katie, if you could share a little bit about your experience of how libraries and librarians are dealing with all of the competition now that didn't exist really for libraries much 30 years ago. And by that, I mean, virtual books and, all of the different categories, all of these, television series turning into book series. I mean, I'm thinking of my granddaughters, for instance, and Bluey and all, she's a big library goer all the time and dragging out, scores of books and bringing them home and, all kinds. But what is sort of the role? How are libraries of different sizes viewing their role as having changed and needing to change? How fast sort of a moving thing is this? And is that a sort of topic that every trustees, libraries are dealing with all the time? Can you shed any light on that for those of us who don't follow what's going on who go to libraries but don't really notice?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the library
Yeah.
and kind of how patrons interact with us. So I will say at the Bacon, it's been very refreshing because it's we're children heavy. Like it's a lot of children's programming, it's a lot of families coming in, families who love that we don't have computers. Um, so all of that, like I think our children's is probably what will keep us running the longest. But speaking to like the books being made into TV shows and movies, that kind of helps us in ways because people are like, "Oh my gosh, I've never heard of this. I want to read it." Heated Rivalry is a huge example right now. Emily Henry's books, she's a romance author too. Also, like people come in and request it and put heavy requests on it because it becomes part of pop culture and they want it. Like Bluey, Peppa the Pig, those are all super popular character books that get checked out. I mean, Clifford and Berenstain Bears still go out all the time because kids are watching the TV versions. Um, so some of that competition actually benefits us, which is fantastic. Um,
Also,
uh,
most of those books are all like, little books that don't take up much space, right?
yeah,
Paperback.
little
Yeah.
paperbacks, things like that.
Yeah.
And then I will say on the bigger scale, having worked in such a big system, you kind of change gears a little bit. So we always would say libraries are becoming more of a social resource rather than a lending library, like a book library. Um, a lot of the more metropolitan libraries and even some of the small rural libraries are starting to get social workers to come in. We focused very heavily where I was on social services just because that's what our community needed. Um, Being a library or like a computer lab essentially for people is huge for certain communities. Our adult computers were always full back in Brooklyn. And so it's just you kind of change, like the books still get checked out. People still love a good hard copy book. You purchase a lot more of the ebooks because people want them and will use them, and it circulation stats benefit us no matter where it's coming from. And so it's just finding little corners to get people in, to keep people looking at the books. And you always have the populations that are using the materials and so it just works out.
Mhm.
If I could, if nobody else is waiting, Doug, I could ask a follow-up, but
Well, actually, Brinley's got her hand up, and I realize so I
let
was
her
like
go
we've
then. I can talk
you know
offline or something
I've
at some point. Nothing
yeah.
urgent.
No,
Yeah.
we can circle back at some point, but I
All
also
right.
realized we've been pestering Katie with questions for like a half an hour here, and I have
That's
no idea how
okay.
much more presentation she
Not
has.
too much.
Yeah, so let's take Brinley's question and then let Katie kind of proceed as well.
Fine.
Um,
Yeah.
thanks. Mine can be really quick. I'm very happy to hear that movies and TV shows increase book um, uh, circulation. And I'm curious if you see it as much for young adult and adult as you do for kids, like, with the Twilight series. And, I'm just curious if it works as well for the young adult section and the adult section as it does for the kids section.
Yeah, so adults would probably be, and I mean, young adults are starting to come in and read more of the adult books that are being made into shows. Um, I know I'm trying to think of, there's like The Summer I Turned Pretty is a young adult series that got made into TV shows. The My Life with the Walter Boys, also a book series turned TV show. Like those books are circulating a little bit better. right now I don't get a huge teen population at the Bacon, regardless of what's on my shelves or not. So it's it's a little more challenging for me to see. I was also a trained children's librarian, not working so much with the teens, but there is still that draw. Adults definitely like I'd have to see right now. I know Clara and the Sun by Ishiguro is something that I'm familiar with that I know people are checking out the book because they want to read it before the movie comes out. Emily Henry's an adult romance, so Netflix just did The People We Meet on Vacation, which spiked checkouts for that book. I know Beach Read is going to come out sometime, so people are reading that one. Heated Rivalry is an adult series that has been all over everything. So that gets checked out pretty frequently too.
I'm just so happy to hear it because when my kids were really, really young, we did that. We read, The Indian in the Cupboard first.
Mhm.
We read all of the books first,
Yeah.
Harry Potter, all of that. We read them first. And so I'm just really happy to hear you say that
Yes.
it's working in reverse as well.
Pat?
Yes, it was just a quick question.
Mhm.
You're pretty small, so I don't know if it would work, but are you equipped to have an elementary class come to browse
So
and read together at a certain time during the academic year or something?
yeah, Riverbend actually brings some of their kids over. So they're probably the closest one. They just walk over.
I see.
Um, they bring kids over during the school year. We've actually have them penciled in for our Thursdays for September already. So
Oh, yeah, great.
Hmm,
yeah.
cool. Well, why don't we let you work through a little more of your presentation? I know we'll have more questions, and I
Yeah.
know Rick's got some. So yeah.
I think I only have a couple more slides, so
Hmm,
we're good.
hmm.
So one of the other things that I'm working on right now is relabeling our nonfiction. Um, I'm not quite familiar with how they had it originally labeled here. But one of the big projects that I started last week is relabeling all of our children's nonfiction, and I'm finding a lot of fiction books in our children's nonfiction. So I'm fixing a lot of that. I am a strong believer in the Dewey Decimal System. And so I am getting all of our nonfiction labeled and properly shelved so it's a little bit more organized. So that's a big project. And then getting teens into the library is my next big project. We, because we're not close to the high school, the Morse is closer. We get very few like teenagers coming in. I got really excited because I had a few in here the other day. They're mostly over at the River House, or the coffee house across the street. So I'm trying to bring them on over.
Okay.
Um, and then I'm just kind of building off of that is just changing the way we order books and making sure we're ordering popular titles that are actually getting checked out rather than a contemporary lit book that's going to sit on my shelves for 5 years and never get looked at. Um, so that's a little bit about the collection.
Cindy?
Yeah, just quick. So what was your nonfiction or is your nonfiction labeled with Library of Congress?
No.
No,
So our
something else?
adult, yeah, our adult I like to call almost Dewey.
Okay.
Dewey.
Almost Dewey. Um, it has a Dewey number on it. It
Yeah.
doesn't go into decimals. And then it would just have like the category. So it would be like some number, self-help, and then they would all just be on the shelf. Um, the way that the Dewey Decimal System works is that you find the overarching category and you get it really tiny. And then it has a very specific place that it lives, and then you
Yeah.
organize it by author.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm working on getting it a little more organized. Our children's, they had it like growth and development, animals, and then in animals there was subsects, within science there was subsects. So there was some organization. It was just neither Dewey nor
Well,
Library of Congress.
that's cool, Katie. Good for you.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a big project. And so then a quick touch on our trustee projects. So as I said, they're responsible for overseeing the grounds and the building. So they do all of our big maintenance projects. They're currently doing the fence project. And so if you've driven by, you might notice we're missing some of our fence. Some of it has come back recently. So there's some pictures I took from the Historical Society's Facebook that Nikki posted for us, or Jen. I don't remember quite which one. Um, but it looks fantastic. I believe they sandblasted it and repainted it, and it's a gorgeous dark green color. And I know that's gonna keep going a little bit longer throughout the summer. And that was using the CPA funds, which the trustees are very thankful for. And so this has been a big project. And then, as I mentioned, when I first jumped on, they're also doing our crosswalk, but that's not a trustee project. That's just the town putting in a crosswalk button, which makes me really happy and excited. But it also means our sidewalk is a little crazy. And then I'll touch on one really quick that they want to do. And so if you've come in and you looked up when you first come upstairs, you may have noticed our glass ceiling, and there's the very tiny spiral staircase leading upstairs to our attic. That actually houses our HVAC system. And so I know for a long time the trustees have really wanted to redo that space. They would essentially get a little bit more eco-friendly cooling systems, remove the glass and repaint and do all of that upstairs, which would be fantastic. But that is a very expensive project. And so we'll see if that comes to life anytime soon. But it would be cool. We go up there all the time to take a look, and it definitely needs some love.
Yeah. For the fence project, or, and I know you said right at the outset,
Mhm.
there's all of the dam deconstruction work
Oh,
going
yes.
on too. Do you, maybe the fence in particular, but possibly the dam, are you looking at any opportunities to hold events at the library that kind of tie into and bring more awareness to those things going on? Like, I don't know, is there a seminar or a talk on the history of the fence? Why was it so special to replace, or that kind of thing, or just the history of the dam and that kind of thing?
I think that would be fantastic to do, especially on the fence.
Mhm.
Um, I think the dam project is a little controversial.
Oh, more than a
Um,
little. Yeah.
and so we've had the Charles, it takes me forever to say this, the Charles River Watershed Group
Right.
come in and answer questions if people have questions about the project. I know the town has been amazing. They've been making us bookmarks and handouts to go to the town website if people have questions. I think it would be fascinating to have someone come in and do like a presentation on the dam project. I do worry it might create uh
Yeah. I
a
wasn't thinking
lot
so
of
much about
discussion.
the dam project itself as
Yeah,
more just kind of the history of the
the
area.
history of
But
the
I
area.
get what you're saying. It
Yeah.
was incredibly divisive, long drawn out. Some folks will never believe that it's finished. I mean, the controversy. So yeah.
Yeah, I think having someone come do the history, that's a lot of what I want to start doing is getting like more talks and things. It's just the challenge is doing the program because right now it would have to be virtual and it really feels like it's such a disservice to have a history talk and not be able to be in the building and see the history of the area.
Hmm.
And so finding solutions for that is something I want to work on before I would present those. Um, because it would be fantastic to have like a historical walk outside. I know the Historical Society does some stuff.
Mhm.
And I've looked at like, I know previously with friends, I think they've done garden tours. And so finding stuff in that vein where we can have it a little bit more accessible to the public and have it here in the history would be more beneficial in the scope of things.
Mhm.
I've got a suggestion for you on
Can
the
I,
dam,
can I,
which
before
is
we move on, just jump in really, really quick, because otherwise I'll lose it from Doug's comment. So they have on the trash cans down at the dam, that the South Natick dam removal office hours
Oh
are
yeah.
at the Bacon Free Library.
Yep.
They had one July 10th. The next one is July 31st, August 14th, and August 28th from 10 to noon.
Yeah, and they're either inside here or out front on the picnic bench.
And that is what, for people to be able to talk to someone who from the town or something that's knowledgeable about
Um,
what's going on, or
I
I
think
believe
it's
at the last ones it was Jillian from the town, but it's largely the Charles River Watershed Group
no.
who's doing the office hours.
Hmm. Okay. So you're providing the space for them to be able to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha. Cool. Cindy?
So this is a question that's partly a suggestion, I guess. Um, so if you were to if you were to organize a program, could you use the Historical Society space that's accessible downstairs? Like if it was going to be a program about the fence, could that be like a joint thing or something like that?
It could be a joint thing. I do think we're just very limited in the space too, so we would have to limit
Yeah,
registrations pretty
yeah,
far.
yeah.
And so that's kind of some of the other challenges. Like we can have a maximum of 49 people upstairs.
Okay.
Um,
And I don't even know what it is downstairs.
I
Sarah,
don't know what it is downstairs either. I'd have to
just
check in with Nikki and coordinate a little bit more with her. But there's
yeah,
definitely opportunities for that. And it does, with the wheelchair access, make it a little bit better.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it's definitely something in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
Rick?
Yeah, I was going to suggest this idea is a little premature, but you have virtually an artist in residence of the dam who is a resident of South Natick. We
Hmm.
know him because he's been here, Rob Dunleavy. You may already have met him.
He's married to one of my trustees.
Oh,
Ah,
really?
Stephanie. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Well, they're friends, and I visit his Facebook posts every day, and he's starting to post on new species that are showing up already as the
Oh,
river
cool.
changes there. And he will eventually, and he's doing bits of commentary. This is the way he works sort of on his virtual stuff. He's an illustrator of books as well. You
Hmm.
probably have some of his books. He's a wonderful illustrator and artist who's received really national recognition. Um, and he will at some point do more than virtual posts. He will put these together into a book. And it would
Oh,
be, I
cool.
think, very interesting when he does that. And this is changing quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
as you know, the what it looks like now is not what it's going to look like in 3 months.
Mm.
Hmm.
And he's always alert and aware of new species. Well, I don't think he's a naturalist. He makes it his business to know all the critters and flyers and swimmers and so forth that are in the dam environment. So
Hmm.
that would be a fascinating thing to do with children and so forth. And something on a different topic that was Brindley kind of brought up, which is back to the sort of you know teen teen screen fixation and the desire to get teens off of screens. And it's not just teens, it's younger kids as well. But I think, I wonder if there is uh, some things going on in the library world that are meant to educate people, educate teens and others how to fill their time doing the kinds of things they do online in books. I mean, obviously, a lot of what people do on screens, particularly teens, is watch and text and all of that. But there's a certain amount of browsing that goes on and
Hmm.
curiosity. And how do you do that? And how do you fill your time reading? If your goal isn't to read a book from beginning to end, particularly nonfiction, but you have questions, what can you do? Because there's a real role for reading and for books, that's not necessarily the classic role for books. In other
Hmm.
words, it just strikes me that to get teens off of screens, there has to be an alternative that allows them, hopefully, to slow down somewhat, but also to realize that there's a whole world of things in books and that is just as interesting as anything you're ever going to see online,
Yeah.
in my opinion, which is probably reflects my age. So,
I will say there's two very cool things that have come out of like the virtual world for teens. I mean, so one is like graphic novels and mangas are huge. They're quick reads, there's lots of pictures.
mhm.
Um, And a lot of classics are being turned into graphic novels. A lot of nonfiction is being written as graphic novels. And so that has a little bit more of a higher circulation among that age group. And so they're still getting the information in ways that is a little bit more conducive to their ways of learning now with that like quick information thing. Um, that's a collection I'm going to start building because we have a bunch for
That's
like
great.
younger kids, but not for
Mhm.
teens.
Yeah, that's
Um,
great. I've heard of them,
yeah,
but I didn't know much about it. Okay, great. That's
yeah.
a good one.
And then another one that I've seen pop up in Brooklyn, but also in other library systems, is teens are actually forming like Luddite clubs where they don't like they come in and for like an hour, hour and a half, they don't have technology.
Hmm.
Wow,
Um,
that's cool.
and so, and it's teen led, like it's not like a librarian's coming in and being like, oh, come to my program and don't use tech. It's the kids don't want to be online. Like they don't want that attachment. And so they're coming in and forming these groups themselves. And they're either doing like art projects or reading books together. It's fascinating. It's so cool to see.
Hmm.
That is cool.
That's really cool. Pat? Yeah, Pat? Pat, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Internet connection's a little on a
right.
on a on a slightly a darker question. Have you experienced any pressure, because of our the dark cloud of our political culture, uh, have requests to remove books from the library that are LGBTQ friendly or anything like that?
No. So even in my time in Brooklyn in such a large group, and I also worked in a very conservative community, book challenges are very rare in libraries, at least in the libraries I've worked at.
Mhm.
I've been very lucky that it's very rare. So we
Right.
more often than not, you might get an individual who doesn't agree with the information in the book or doesn't agree with it being available to children. And it's the same thing as if you were to come in and not agree that we have a book on the shelf for adults that doesn't align with your political views. It's one of those,
Mhm.
we have books for everyone. Like we don't
Sure.
cater to one audience, we cater to all. It's the cool part about being a public library. And so I've been very fortunate both here and in Brooklyn to not experience too much of that. So
Well, that's reassuring.
yeah.
Yeah. I had a related question when you were mentioning just about the longevity of nonfiction books, and you
Hmm.
said that the food pyramid's now a plate, and I,
Yep.
I mean, I think there was some absurd thing the government did about nutrition standards recently. I'm assuming, or can you confirm that there's no undue pressure from the government to place books of dubious accuracy in the library?
So the one nice thing is that most libraries have a lot of freedom to choose the books that we purchase and keep
Good,
on our shelves.
good.
While we do try to have everything that we can for as many people as we can, we do have the um the ability to pick and choose and the ability to decide where those books are placed once they're in our collection, if they are in our collection.
Those are the ones that are spine back instead of spine out. Cool. All right.
Yeah. And so last slide that I'll touch very briefly on because we don't actually have a friends group. So friends are a huge part of the library world. It's usually a group of volunteers who come together to help do important things like fundraise for us and get us some more money to do programming and the such. Um, those of you familiar with the Morse might be familiar with their book sale they do. That's all led by the Friends of the Morse. Um, they are super important for fundraising. Here at the Bacon, they've done a few things. The planters that are outside with all the flowers, those were purchased and planted by the Friends group originally. I believe one of them still comes and keeps up with it. We help water throughout the week. I think some of the benches outside were from the Friends group. I know inside we have our children's book browser bins. So it's just the way our picture books are organized. Those were all donated by the Friends group. Um, and we don't currently have one. And so I'm trying my best. If anyone knows anyone interested in becoming a friend of the Bacon Free Library, pass them my way.
Hmm.
But that's all I had for you guys.
Yeah.
My little picture didn't load.
Maybe you can stop your screen sharing unless people
Yep.
need something else brought back. But well, that's a wonderful introduction to you and the library. And given that we've been pestering you with questions for over an hour here, clearly it's a topic of interest to us.
Mhm.
It's really good to hear how cooperative your relationship with the Morse
Yeah.
is, and how you can kind of each contribute what's unique to your either geographical locations or your interiors. Yeah. I think it was Brinley or someone's question about coordinating with a historical society for increased use of their space on occasion, since it is the handicapped accessible
Mhm.
portion. That's a good partnership too. Pat, you've got your hand up again.
Yeah, I have two questions.
Yeah.
Are there libraries that have incorporated, I know this is a little out of the box, the idea of the coffee house model into the library, people sitting around comfortable furniture, having
So
coffee, reading, or having a
yeah,
discussion, or I don't know.
a lot of libraries have actually. And so it depends on the library. But in New York City, in Brooklyn, the main location, actually work with a nonprofit group and run a little cafe in their big atrium area.
Oh,
And so they have seating and things there. Um, I'm interviewed in Stoughton and they have like a little cafe area that they have like free coffee and tables and things. Um, the comfy furniture can be a challenge working with the
right,
public because it's most often not the most cleanable fabric.
right.
Um,
No, no,
and oh, I think internet's cutting in and out.
Yeah. Yeah, Pat, if your internet's bad, perhaps if you turn your video off, your audio will improve. But,
Looks like he's frozen.
yeah. Did you have more you wanted to say, Katie, on that? Or
Just that,
yeah,
it's becoming more of a thing,
right.
more of just being a space.
Yeah. Cool. Good. I don't see other hands up. Well, and Cindy raised her hand. Yeah, Cindy.
So I just thought I've been thinking, wow, you went to Syracuse, you've been in Brooklyn, and here you are in Massachusetts. And originally from New York, and so this is a big change. No, no, originally
No,
from
so
New.
I'm originally from Michigan,
Oh,
from
wow,
very, very rural Michigan.
wow,
So New York City was a huge change for me.
yes.
Mm.
Massachusetts is a little bit more my jam. But my husband's family is up here in Lexington, Burlington, and so that's what kind of urged the move out here. But yeah, the Massachusetts is a lot more similar to what I'm used to.
Cool, cool. Well, we're
Good.
glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, thanks so much for spending the time with us this morning. It's been great to get to know you a little bit and to learn a lot more about the library as well. So,
yeah.
um, I see Bill's got his video off. I don't know whether he's still at the computer or not, but I wanted to mention that next week's speaker is going to be a fellow from I think it's called Compassionate Care ALS, which is it's a support organization primarily, I believe, for families of patients with ALS, as opposed to the um, the person afflicted themselves.
Patients and families.
Patients and families. So Bill's bringing the speaker to us, and looking forward quite a bit to hearing from him next week. And we will then have actually a bit of an extended summer break for the month of August through Labor Day weekend, and then be looking for speakers in September. Cindy, I see you've got your hand up.
Katie, did you talk about your staff?
Ah,
I did not. I,
Could
I
you
can
just
run I
quickly
can
tell
run
us a
through
little
them
bit?
quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of new people on staff. I have a total of 5 currently. There's been a lot of change since I started back in
Okay.
April. And so I came in April. I now have Sam Sloan, my assistant director. She just started July 1st. You may have seen a little blurb about her on our Facebook and in our newsletter. She's amazing. She's currently leading my story time. So she's assistant director slash head of children's services. And then I also have 2 new library assistants, Nicole and Gwen. They are both still students, but they're here most of the week. Nicole one half, Gwen the other half.
Are they
And
at
then
Simmons?
no, they are actually neither one of them are in their library programs yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then I have Karen and Paula, our sub. And Paula is the fantastic individual who does our art here at the library. So if you've come in and seen any of the art hanging, she has been helping coordinate that for quite a while.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for running down those folks.
I mean, that's a huge thing that you've done since April to come to a small library and have a huge staff change and then have all this construction and,
It's been an exciting
and then be
couple of
finding
months.
fiction with the nonfiction. Like, oh my goodness.
It's been fun. It keeps me entertained.
Yeah. Yeah. Very busy time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again for your time with us.
Yeah,
Let's see,
thank
I
you
mentioned
guys.
next week's speaker, and then we generally kind of close out with current events. Usually Brindley's got something to tell us about, or anyone else of things that are going on in town this week or soon. Brindley, have you got anything for us?
I do. And I thought maybe I'd go first real quick and show you guys I'm down at the dam. So
Oh,
can you see it?
kind of, yes. Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Maybe I'll walk down a little closer. I didn't want to because of the noise. I didn't want to go down too much because it was but I would say this week there is Wednesday is another opportunity to talk about downtown Main Street and those improvements with the select boards meeting. And then maybe Bill or Sarah would want to talk about the fact that they've got a CPA meeting coming up and what's going to be on that, because I always find those meetings to be really informative up front about what's coming down the pike for us to potentially be voting on.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So either
Sure.
Bill or Sarah
I
maybe
can,
talk. Yeah.
yeah, I can jump in if
Hang
you
on,
want.
hang on one
Yeah.
second. Let me see if I can. Hang on one second. I'm turn my video back on and see if you guys can see better. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Wow. Where did all the water go?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
right now they're
Wow.
working on the culvert. They're building the bridge to go across the river so that the trucks can come across. But okay, that's it. I'm done. Thanks.
Yep. Great. Bill.
Yeah, on Tuesday at 6:30, we have a public hearing on the 4 applications we have for funding for CPA funds for this fall that will be considered at town meeting. So this is the committee's first opportunity to talk with the applicants and ask questions and kind of explore what is being requested. And then we would forget the right term, refer them, continue them,
Continue the hearing.
for 2 weeks. So that would be the end of July or early August, where we'll actually make the decision about whether we want to forward the projects to town meeting.
Hmm. Cool.
So
So that would be a good meeting to come to hear about what those projects are. Yeah. Great.
So the only other big news is that Natick Nights got moved last week
Right.
because of the smoke and the weather, and so it's going to be this Thursday. So this Thursday they will have the big Natick Night set up with the beer garden and the groups and all of the everything that's been going on. So that'll actually be this Thursday.
Cool. But was there going to be a movie screening that also got postponed? Has that gotten rescheduled for the Common?
Oh, I believe so, but I haven't
Yeah.
I haven't looked to see
Yeah,
when that's happening.
Lane tells us that that's Jurassic Park and that it was scheduled for this Thursday. So I don't know how they do it, but
Yeah, I don't know whether it'd be part of Natick Nights or not. That doesn't seem like it would work, but maybe. Yeah.
I, I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah. Interesting. Cool. All right. Well, that gets us close to 10:30, so I think it's probably a good time to wrap up. Again, Katie, thanks so much for spending time with us this morning. With your permission, I'll put you on our email list so you're aware of future speakers.
Yeah.
Welcome anytime to come back. And, I know it's working hours for you, but the sessions do get recorded. So a good resource for you in the future. And Rick, I'm glad you mentioned the fellow that daily goes and captures nature at the dam. I would love to have him come back as a Coffee with a Purpose speaker sometime. I'm glad to hear that he's continuing his daily pilgrimage during these huge changes to the area.
Yeah, no,
Reminds me that he came in person, and I remember looking at his books in person.
That's right. We do have to get back to an in-person location,
That was,
which,
I
yeah,
missed that.
yeah, we will get there.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
so I should bring that up again, actually, since you mentioned in person. The town is doing a survey right now for interim use for Johnson. And what made me remember that is Randy and Pegasus are looking at potentially being one of those interim use people using the upstairs for theirs. And so if you want to fill out that survey and say that having Pegasus there would be a great interim use, that would be great, because I think Randy would like that. So
Mm. Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, yeah. And honestly, the Pegasus studios or conference facilities are the most likely place for us to be able to get back to hybrid because he's got all that equipment and is willing to share with us. So good.
I wonder how long it would take before that could happen. I mean, shouldn't be, well, accessibility issues for Pegasus to be upstairs there. I don't know. I mean,
So there might be accessibility issues, obviously, but that's all part of the
right.
conversation. It's not like they're going to say, okay, you can move in September.
Mhm.
So they're saying that it's still next summer before they're going to make a decision. This is just for feedback. I did put the page and the link in there.
Yeah.
So it would actually be great if people wanted to do it. There's when they talked about it at the select board a couple weeks ago, there were a lot of ideas on the table. And there are a lot of people in town talking about it. So if anybody has any ideas for interim use, they are looking to see if someone would be interested in paying to fix some of the ADA compliance things. And then in exchange, they would give them the 3-year contract to stay for interim use for 3 years. I have thoughts on that, but I won't go into them. But I do think the Randy project would be really great. I mean, not the Randy project, but the Pegasus project. I think that would be a great use of that upstairs space for them. So
Wish I'd known that
and,
before I completed the survey, but so yeah. I mean, what about though for a live meeting? Just reserving a room at Morse and meeting there.
Yeah, we could do it. I mean, the challenges, honestly, are the best way to do hybrid is to have one of those owl cameras, which is
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
$1,000 plus
Yeah.
device. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but Randy's got that stuff. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. So
Hmm.
cool. All right. Let's bring it to a close. I'm going to go ahead and turn the recording off at this point. I think.